Hello everyone, I'm Anthropomantic Fiend and I do horror-related things on the internet. Today I'm doing a video about a couple of things that I really like that are connected. I don't know what I'm gonna call this video because it kind of falls into that category that I put my Rotten Recommendations videos in, but it's not quite as extensive as those tend to be, because in this video I'm going to be talking about the new album from The Birthday Massacre, Diamonds, and I'm going to be talking about the book Boring Girls, which is written by Sara Taylor, aka Chibi, The Birthday Massacre's lead singer. Usually if this was a Rotten Recommendations video, I would probably be recommending you all things sort of related to this topic that I like, which would probably end up in me just recommending you The Birthday Massacre's whole discography, because all of it's really good. I thought of doing this as more of an in-depth review thing on both, but I don't really want to do that. I'm just not feeling up to that right now. I've got a lot of other stuff I need to do and want to do, and there's a lot of great little surprises hidden in both of these that I don't want to spoil for you. I just want you to find them for yourself. So first up is Diamonds by The Birthday Massacre, and The Birthday Massacre are a band that have been around since, I think they may have even started like recording demos and stuff in the 80s. At that time they were called Magica after Clive Barker's stuff, but they discovered that there was a death metal band that had that name already, because of course there's always a death metal band that has stolen your band name already. They had a song called The Birthday Massacre about quite literally a massacre at a birthday party, and it sort of fit their sound because they have sort of this mix of synth pop and this sort of fun, playful, childish fantasy Alice in Wonderland-y thing going on, but also this very dark horror side to their music, and these heavier elements inspired by bands like Deftones. The mixture of Birthday and Massacre really fit with sort of the duality of their sound. They are one of my favorite bands because of sort of the duality of everything that they do. They've got the playful fantasy stuff and the dark horror stuff, and to match that they've got sort of a lighter synth pop side and a heavier, more metallic side to their music. They don't really have a concrete genre to their music. Some people have tried to categorize them as dark wave, but I don't even know what dark wave means at this point. It just kind of gets stuck on a bunch of bands that are somewhat gothy, so I don't know, but they're The Birthday Massacre and they're awesome. The other thing I really like about them is they incorporate this sort of duality into their artwork as well. There is horror elements, lots of skulls and morbidness, but also bunnies on every album cover. I think that wasn't even originally supposed to be part of what they do, but they used it as sort of this logo on their website for a while, just to sort of take you from page to page, just sort of as this guide through the underground world, Alice in Wonderland style, but it stuck and it really became their logo. This little bunny with purple blood dripping from his lips, it seems. The other thing is the purple, or the violet rather. Their first album was called Violet, which is maybe still my favorite Birthday Massacre album. They have sort of adopted the purple or the violet as something that is also sort of this mixture of red and blue, light and dark. Birthday Massacre, another sort of element of the duality, and purple is also just my favorite color, which helps. So their style, both sort of just visually and aesthetically and just sound-wise and lyrically and content-wise, is just everything up my alley. So they are naturally one of my favorite bands, so I was very excited when they put out a new album. This album is really good. I don't think it's my favorite Birthday Massacre album because it really airs more on the sort of light synthy side of their music and not so much the heavy stuff. It's got some heavy elements to it, but it doesn't have sort of the big riffs in a bunch of the songs the way Violet or Walking with Strangers does, which is why I really like those albums. I think Walking with Strangers still might be my favorite, partially because I've listened to it the most times. I just said Violet was my favorite, didn't I? It's a toss-up between those two albums, but Walking with Strangers has really heavy songs, but also really light ambient songs. This has more sort of atmospheric, synthy, pretty Birthday Massacre on it than other stuff, but it's still a great album. I could go in depth with all of the songs, but I don't really want to spoil them for you. I'll just tell you this isn't their heaviest work, but there's just some really great songs on here. I really love Enter, The Sky Will Turn, The Last Goodbye. Those were sort of the first songs I heard, but now I've fallen in love with Parallel World and Flashback, I think especially, but the other songs have grown on me too. They're just very catchy and everything up my alley. So you just want some good, fun music, I highly recommend the Birthday Massacre's new album, Diamonds, and just all of their music in general. And a while ago, Sara Taylor, aka Chibi, the lead singer for the Birthday Massacre, yeah, they kind of have fun stage names. One of them's Rainbow. I think the guitarist Rainbow and Chibi are the only ones who use their stage names. They tried to give the other ones sort of cutesy stage names, and they were like, no, we're not using those. So anyway, Sara Taylor wrote a book called Boring Girls. I don't know if you can see it, but the little tagline at the bottom is Metal, Mayhem, Murder, which is, of course, all my favorite things. The back only makes it better. A visceral short... I can't talk today. A visceral story of friendship, music, and bloody revenge. This is about a girl named Rachel, who is something of a loner and an outcast, basically all throughout, like, middle school and high school. I don't remember, but mostly in high school is when it starts to get really bad for her, and she just feels awful and pissed off and isolated, and then suddenly she hears from a car that is driving by death metal, and she's like, This is everything. This is exactly what I'm feeling right now. And she just runs to the record store and she finds death metal and becomes this metalhead, which freaks out her parents and only kind of alienates her further. So she just kind of feels left out, and then she meets this kindred spirit at a friend's party. Her name is Fern, and she's also a metalhead, and she's been practicing guitar, and Rachel has been trying to learn to sing, so they decide to form their own death metal band, which takes off and becomes awesome for them. The first half of the book is just sort of them getting their band off the ground and having to deal with these sort of hurdles and a lot of the misogyny within the metal scene that's hindering them. So it's just kind of this coming-of-age, fun, heavy metal story for the first half of the book. And then halfway through the book, something awful and horrible happens to Rachel and Fern. I'm not going to spoil it for you because that would really lessen the impact of the book, but something really messed up happens to them, and it sends them on this downward spiral towards becoming murderers. That is not a spoiler because the book opens up with the lines, "It seems like everyone I talk to wants to know two things. One is whether I'm a serial killer or a mass murderer." So yeah, it might actually be my favorite book because I don't think any book I've ever read has really emotionally hit me as hard as this one did. Because as a teenage metalhead, I really related to Rachel and connected with her, and it, again, as someone who's tried to form metal bands on numerous occasions with my friends with varying degrees of success, I highly related to what they were doing, and there were all kinds of just relatable little moments, and they really capture the feel of the extreme metal scene and being a fan of death metal, black metal, etc., without ever using any real bands in the book. They've created their own sort of scene and collection of bands, and they all feel like real bands, because you've got this band that they end up playing with that's called Heathenistic Bile, who are just these really pompous, awful black metal assholes, and they're more obsessed with their appearance and the aesthetic of what they're doing than actually being a good band. And then there's Die Every Death, or DED, Dead for short, and they're like the big death metal Cannibal Corpse superstars of this world. And there's Torn Bowel. I imagine them as like a grindcore band. They just sing about the most disgusting stuff in the world, but they're actually just really nice, chill people. They really capture what it's like to be a metal fan and what the feel of all of these extreme metal bands is in the book. So the characters felt very real to me, if kind of a little bit over the top in places, but on the whole they felt real, and I really connected to Rachel, and I identified with her so much that when the awful stuff happened halfway through the book, it devastated me. I felt awful. And the rest of the book kind of takes this downward spiral as they become killers. And this is the only book I've ever read that when I finished it, I was actually close to tears, because it's horrifying and devastating and really sad. And there's all kinds of sort of moral dilemmas halfway through the book, because there's some horrible stuff that they're doing, but it's kind of justified, but also, no, please don't do that. And again, I'm already just so identified with these characters that when they just sort of take this downward spiral, I go with them. And this is absolutely sort of, half of the book is teen coming of age story, half of the book is brutal extreme horror and stuff that I probably wouldn't be able to watch on film, even though I've kind of wanted to see this as a movie. I think Sara Taylor is actually trying to make it into a series. From what I've seen, it deviates from the book in the ways that I'm not so sure about, but you know, I'm willing to give it a chance. But I would love to see just a really visceral, extreme movie version of this book. But I'm more than happy with the book, and if you want a really dark, horrific read, and if you're a metal fan, I think you will love this book. It's not a feel-good, fun time read, though, and I know that the world's not exactly in a happy place at the moment, so if you want something to cheer you up, don't read this book. But if you want a really good book that you will probably devour the way that I did. I read this thing so fast because I was just so immersed in it. I highly recommend this book. Again, it might be my favorite book, and I've read a lot of really good books that I really like. So those are my little recommendations for you. If you need some good stuff to do and you want to be entertained, check out the new Birthday Massacre album. Check out all their albums, actually, and check out Boring Girls by Sara Taylor. So that's the video. Thank you for watching my video, and hopefully I will see you in another one. Bye!